look on the image in the sharing where it says, what are some of the objectives for the talk? And the images, oh good, I'm glad he saw that. Great. Clear activities from student speaking. Great, because that's the title of the talk. So normally I would take a little more time to go over objectives, but I'd like to go over everything that we planned. So hopefully everyone has the same objectives. Now, Neil and I talked about what you probably would like to know about, and I've identified 3 objectives. First, we're just going to identify sort of a commonality between speaking exams, between all of them. Then we're going to define scaffolding, which is important to do because maybe we all have different ideas. And then I'm going to share some of those scaffolding activities that you can use in your classroom, right? And we've already been introducing these in a lot of academies and a lot of schools, and the teachers and the students are pretty happy with them. So let's have hope. Okay. So you probably all know these speaking exams. There's the TOEFL, there's the Cambridge, the Trinity exam. The Aptis, I think, is pretty new. The academies are trying it. The International, the IB. We have the Escuela Oficial de Idiomas, of course, and then we have Oxford. And Oxford's exams are really they're becoming very internationally. So those are more or less the major exams that you're probably gearing your students' English level to. Now, let's see if we can figure out what commonality there is between levels. The level 1 is usually between 7 and 12 years old. Level 2, let's say 250 hours of English, right? And level 3, we're talking about people who needed English for professional, undergraduate, or postgraduate studies. So if anyone has a problem with that, let me know, but that's pretty much the commonality between all of the exams above. They just give the exam in different forms. All right? Now, what we also need to know is what under each level the exams are geared towards, what it's focused on. So again, in general, in level 1, between 7 and 12 years old, Karen, I'll go back to that in a bit, okay? You need to identify colors in English. You need to answer very simple questions about themselves. They need to verbalize information. That includes all the normal things. 250 hours, Jose, I would say yes, in class, absolutely, learning English. Explain the difference between stories and pictures and establish sequences and ask questions and use appropriate tenses. So hopefully you can all agree that at level 1, that's essentially what they need to do. Okay. So now at level 2, what is the norm? What do all the exams ask for? Well, they probably ask for, there's a 250 of class hours of English. We could say, study hours as well. So if they do a lot of work outside the classroom, that would count as well. Okay, ask and answer questions about themselves, express likes and dislikes, tell people what you think about something you read or heard. So it's much more concrete, and there's a lot more expectations. So hopefully you're going to agree on that. And then we have level 3, and this is when they need English for professional, undergraduate, or postgraduate studies. That covers a lot of different things. And what's going to be expected in this type of exam? You need to explain an idea, have a detailed with a lot of academic language, give presentations. Presentations is now a big thing in many of the exams. Use and understand formal academic and colloquial language, know the difference, and be able to negotiate, argue, and discuss the subtle differences of complex subjects. So they say in a lot of exams, you need to speak as if you're native, which I think is a little unrealistic, but anyway, you need to have a wide berth of English. All right, so everyone okay with that, with those 3 levels? Because that's what we're going to base the rest of the talk on. All right, good, great. Glad you're all so happy. What? Perfect. So, as I say, the objectives for this talk, I have 3. We did this, we identified the characteristics, right? And we always need to share objectives with our students. It really helps. That's why I'm repeating the objectives with you. What have we accomplished? We're going to talk about scaffolding. Does anyone remember the second objective that we have? Is anyone paying really close attention? Latina, do you remember? Or that was the yes that you agreed? Who remembers the second objective? No, you don't need to copy anything down. I believe, and Neil will confirm this, you're going to get access to a PDF of this talk. Okay. So yes, Karen, you were paying attention. It's scaffolding. Define scaffolding. So perfect, Regina. Muy bien. Okay. Thank you, Laura. So we're going to define scaffolding. There are many ways to define scaffolding. This is a definition that you might find. Okay, and if you see in the chat, Neil is saying if you email him at the end, he'll send you a copy of the presentation, a PDF. All right, so to me, this is, it's just words. So I like to use images, and whenever you use images and text, it doubles for learning. So you probably are all familiar with the zone of proximal development, right? It's when the students are very comfortable where they are, and we gently, okay, Karen, you'll see that in a minute. We gently push them out of their comfort zone, and they become super students. Let's try that one more time, this animation. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Okay, this one is what Karen was saying, literally scaffolding or supporting. It's the building of supporting. To me, this doesn't describe scaffolding very well, but to some people, it makes a lot of sense. You support their learning and then take it away when they feel confident. We could also say that we're giving their students a helping hand. We're helping them go from one place to another. There's no hierarchy here. It's just that we're helping them move forward. Okay? We could say that it's bridging gaps, that we're helping them, and if there's a gap in their learning, we're giving them the tools to move from one place to another. Like the multiple images, you can say breaking material into chunks. Now, very visual. You're breaking a tree into chunks. Don't do that. Just information. Okay. And we're helping the cognitive load. The studies show that we can only save 7 items, 7 new knowledge in our minds at once. And that's what cognitive load is. And what we're trying to make sure through scaffolding is avoid cognitive overload. And a lot of times when our students, Rosa, we'll do this at the very end, okay? So don't worry. A lot of times when our students are frustrated, when they're fooling around, when they're hitting each other, throwing paper airplanes, that sort of thing, it's mostly because they don't understand what's going on in the classroom. They're overloaded. We're either presenting things too quickly, not in the way they need it. We're talking to them instead of having them be participatory. So this is what scaffolding is. Very dynamic, interactive, the way you present the material. All right? So, as I was saying, scaffolding changes pure frustration to pure joy. And this is what we want to see with our students, right? So, let's go back to our objectives, because the main part of this is going to be the scaffolding, and I'm going to ask you to be participatory. We've done the first 2 objectives. We've gone over the characteristics of speaking exams. We've gone over the definition of scaffolding. So now, let's do some scaffolding for speaking exams. And now we're going to review again the different levels. All right. So can you look at these, please, and tell me if there's anything you would add or if there's anything you would take out at a level 1 for any of the exams you're working. Thank you, Ima. All right. Are you all happy with this level 1? Right, so what we're going to take this, great, thank you, Adelina. We're going to take these and we're going to break it up into, we want to always scaffold academic language, sequencing, compare and contrast, and what if. And the what if is really important, even at level 1, especially in level 3. Students need to be creative. So in Spain, creativity is not one of the priorities of the curriculum. So when we help them learn new languages, it's really wonderful. We can help them be more creative. It'll help them think on their feet, is the expression. And especially in exams, that's a gift that we're giving them. How can we take these 4 elements and include them in speaking? A speaking problem, right? So this is something you all are pretty familiar with. You have, let me see if I can get my arrow here. I don't know where the arrow went, but I'll find it later. We have in the middle this person, thank you. We have this person who's sitting in a computer, just a scene. Now, the examiner is probably going to ask you to take some objects and put them into the scene and then talk about it, even if it's level 1. So what we want to do is make sure our students are familiar with the names of any kind of objects. Well, here's one way we can do it. Now, these are sort of random objects. I don't know if we're going to see a refrigerator in here, but we could help our students say, a refrigerator does not belong in this scene. But I'm going to show you a simple scaffolding activity to help them learn the names of these different objects. You're working with a pair, and you put 6 objects down. You probably have about 30 images, right? You put 6 objects down. Make sure they know the vocabulary. There's a pencil sharpener, glue, a telephone. There's a mixer, a refrigerator, and colored pencils. Now, one partner says all those, and then turns the head away. The other person takes one of the images away. Sorry, we also want to make sure we give them the academic language. The one on the top left is, one on the top middle is, the top right, etc. We want to keep that visible so they have that written on the table. The more they repeat it, the better. There's no reason not to give it to them. Right. So we take those, and the one of the people in the pair moves one of the images, and then the person who had the head turned away looks back and has to name the images one more time. Pencil sharpener, this is glue, this is a phone, this is a mixer, these are colored pencils. That's an understatement. These are, you've now included this is and these are. Neil Alberto says he can't hear. Is the sound okay still? All right. So, okay, thanks. So now, this other person also, thank you very much, this also person has to figure out which one was missing. Does anyone remember which one was missing? Who remembers which one was missing? The fridge. All right. Okay. You all were paying attention, absolutely. So the fridge was missing. All right. Now what we can also do is that one was put in order. What we can also do is put them out of order and take away one again. Does anyone know which is missing now? If it's taken out of order, it's harder to remember. Okay, I won't move, Marisol. I will not move. Okay, the glue is missing. Thank you, Rosa. Thank you, David. Okay, thank you, Julieta and Paul. No, thanks. All right, so that's just a simple exercise. Now, let's go do something else. This is sort of irony. Right. So if I said to you, these are, again, 7 to 12-year-olds, and I give them these, the images are supposed to be a little smaller, but broken up into 4 blocks. And I say, which 3 of these are correct? So can you all look at these images? There are 2 in each block. Tell me which are correct. There are 3 that are correct. Sun, cloud, and wind. Okay, so you're saying this one with the girl in the raincoat and the sun, the girl on the horse and the rain clouds, and then this, it's raining, and this guy's at the beach. Sun, beach, and, all right, I see what you're doing. Sun, beach, and horse. The thing is, here we have here the sun and a girl in a raincoat. Then here we have a horse with rain clouds. Yeah. And here we have someone at the beach and it's raining. Here we have someone flying a kite and there's wind blowing. So don't worry about it. It wasn't well explained. So now, which 2 pictures, there are 3 groups of 2 pictures that are correct. The wind one, with the person and the kite, with the wind. Okay, I notice that not many people are writing, and I assume it's because it's a little confusing, right? Don't worry, I meant it to be confusing. It's getting your minds working. It's making you think a little bit critically. I know, Rosa, it's confusing. Figure out what's going on here. 1, 2, and 3, Emil, are correct, you're saying. So we wear a raincoat when the sun's out. And that we go horseback riding when it rains, and we go to the beach when it rains. So what I'm assuming your students are going to do, okay, Jose, you're saying only correct one seems the kite and the wind. What does everyone else think about that? The person flying the kite and it's windy, he says it's the only correct one. But I said, which 3 are correct? So what's going on? Okay, Victoria. Okay. All right. So, yeah, but it's written 3 here. But it's okay. What's going on here is irony. Irony, people. We can play a little with our students' minds. The studies show that even at 4 years old, children understand irony. So, no. So, I'm from New York. In New York, we are very ironic. And it makes us think on our feet all the time because we never know if someone's telling us the truth or not. All right? So if I said to the students, I want you to verbalize which 3 are correct, they're going to start verbalize. The girl in the raincoat is with... Okay, let me start over. The sun is out and the girl has a raincoat. The man is at the beach and it's raining. The girl is on a horse and it's raining. The boy is flying a kite and it's windy. So they're going to share this information and realize in the end there's only one correct one. There's only one. That's what they said. The other 3 are incorrect. But they need to challenge us, just like you are. You're challenging me. You're confused. What's the story? If they see that there's only one that's correct, they still have verbalized the other, and their interest is piqued. They're very curious. They're saying, well, I don't understand. Kids do not have to believe teachers are always right or always have to be right. They can tell the teacher what's correct. Right? The idea is let them figure it out. All right. You get the idea? Critical thinking, Rosa. Very good. Okay. All right. So it's just a little fun. You can have fun with your students. And I'm going to show you how we can amplify this for different levels. All right. So the heading is misleading on purpose, Isabel. Thank you. Yes. But they had to have read it, didn't they? Okay. All right. Phew. I was getting worried that you were all getting upset. It's all on purpose, and you can do this as well. All right. Here's another example. What is this object? Is it a blue hexagon, or is it an ice cream cone with 5 sides? I know, Rosa. None of us like to read. Okay, so obviously it's 1, but you read 2. It's not an ice cream cone, and this has 6 sides. So we now know that a hexagon has 6 sides. So not only are you teaching them a little bit of geometry, but you're letting them read. And now they have to remember what an ice cream cone is, because it's not something you use often. If they use the ice cream cone in exam, it's going to be very impressive. So Aurora, you think that it's number 2. The second isn't possible, but you don't know that unless you read it. Right? Isabel, thank you very much. I love subjectivity. I love imagination. Okay. Again, the important thing is here, give them something to read. Let them have some fun. Okay? All right. Here we have one more example for this level. What is this object? A paddle to play tennis, or a ruler to measure inches. Yes, I know, Julieta, I know. So they have to figure out it's got 6, right? Okay, so obviously it's 2. Now we've done a few things here. We've given them some academic language, a paddle. to play tennis. They're going to have to remember what that is. And we're also opening up the subject of the difference between the international metrics, the international and the metric system. So it's a great way to start talking about inches and centimeters. All right. And so, as you say, Karim, it's not inches, it's centimeters, but it opens up the whole topic. Okay? All right. All right. So those are some examples for level 1. Here's one other thing. It's not ironing. Here we have an example of information. We have a lot of animals in the picture. Now, the original image, it's very hard sometimes to create these presentations because we have a lot of copyright restrictions. So the original picture had a lot of information in it, which is overwhelming for students. And what we like to do is take this image. There's still a few animals here. We want to break them up and let our students look at them one at a time. So we've broken them up and we've given the names. I see that it hasn't converted very well for this picture. So I'm going to go on. I'm going to explain it more in level 3, okay? Don't worry. We'll explain it in level 3. Okay. This is, in fact, an example. You see it's broken up into three different pages, and the students go from one page to the other talking just about that one part. All right, so in this way, they just talk about the images you see, not the whole picture. All right, again, we're going to go over it again in level 3. All right, so now, ready for another one? Okay, there's scaffolding activities because, again, Katie, after you do these, then you're going to, let me see if I can show you. It's a valid question. So let me see if I can go back to, see if I get this right. There. Okay, so if we go to one of the scaffolding we're talking about, let's try this slide. Okay. Okay, these are definitions of scaffolding again. Let me keep going, because if I answer Katie's question, you're going to understand it a lot better, the rest of the scaffolding part. No, we're still in the definition of scaffolding. Okay, so, all the slides here. All right, so for instance, this activity, if you remember, this is a scaffolding activity for them to learn the academic language. It started, however, by saying, when you have this, the examiner is going to give this picture here, this main picture, and they're going to put different objects in the picture and have the students explain them. Right? So if they don't know how to verbalize, and if they're not comfortable verbalizing the names of these objects, they're not going to be able to say how they fit into the picture. But if we use a lot of different objects, a lot of them, colored pencils, glue, mixer doesn't fit in this picture. If we help them verbalize everything they can about different objects, then this, for instance, they're going to be comfortable doing. So we're scaffolding academic language so that they do this speaking part more easily. Does that make sense? And if you remember, what we're doing here is we want to scaffold academic language sequencing and compare and contrast, because that's what they're going to get on their exam. So the first one was scaffolding academic language. Now we're going to scaffolding sequencing. Yeah, you're being very specific. The idea is that we're helping them with academic language for the first part. All right, let's go back, and I'll try to be more specific about how we can fit all these in. Okay. All right, so we're into the sequencing. Let's see if I can get back to sequencing. Almost there. All right. So in the exam, they're going to have to talk about sequencing. You all have agreed that that's one of the things that's going to be on the exam. What we can do is give them a lot of images and say, start at the first one. We have vocabulary first, next, after, then, suddenly, finally, in the end. First, there's a desert. It doesn't have to make all sense. Then there was a tidal wave, and there was only an island left in the middle of the ocean. Okay? So we're practicing these words, and we're generating some conversation. Now, we can move these around. Now we have, first there was a desert, next there was lightning, and then there was an island in the middle of the ocean. So they're repeating. Then we get to the exam, they're going to know how to use these words. These are very important. This is what the examiners want them to use, these words. And then we're going to mix up more. First, there was the desert. Again, they're repeating. Next, there was lightning. Then there was a lot of rain. Just keep. First, there was a tornado. Then there was lightning, and then a lot of rain. Let's see if we can use some more of the link words. First, there was a tornado. After, the rainbow came out, the sun and the rainbow. And then it started to rain in the end. You see, I'm using the language that they need and different order. Okay? Suddenly, there was a tornado. Then, sun came out and there was a rainbow. Finally, there was just sun. Yes, Magdalena, they're going to find it hard, but I say push them. I'm an examiner. I'm an examiner from some exams. And when students are able to verbalize these types of words, their scores go way up. So yes, it's hard, but we're giving them the opportunity to use academic language and linking words and look at sequencing and think on their feet. Again, examiners want to see that they're not just programs, that they're not just memorizing. They're not just repeating what they've memorized during the past year, that they can think about what they're really seeing. Thank you, Isabel. You're helping oral production. Yeah. Okay. Again, we want to change the images around. They're still using the vocabulary and the linking words. Okay, and we can have a little fun with it. Okay. First, there was a desert with a sunset. Suddenly, it began to rain. In the end, the sun came out. Okay, so here, we're going to do contrasting. So that was sequencing. Remember, now we're going to do contrasting words. The picture on the right is a black hat. The picture on the left is a striped hat in contrast. Again, these are expressions that examiners want to hear the students use. The picture on the right is a witch with a cat, with a white cat, or let's say gray cat. Similarly, the picture on the left is a witch on a broom with a black cat. Here we have, you're going to say, nevertheless, it's challenging for them. Trust me. If we teach it to them, they will understand it and use it. The picture on the left is a castle, brown castle. Nevertheless, how can we use nevertheless here? Interesting. Nevertheless, the picture on the right is also a castle, and we're looking above. That might be, I'm sure you can come up with better sentences than that. Okay, again, the picture on the right is a ghost with two eyes and a mouth, unlike the ghost on the right only has two eyes. Okay, Karen, thank you. When he was going back to the castle, there's also a castle on the right, but nevertheless, the towers are not round. Again, Laura, nevertheless is a challenging word, but only if we don't let them learn it. Once they've learned it, they will use it. And I'm telling you, if I heard a student from 7 to 12 years old use nevertheless, whew, their points will go up. All right. Although in the picture, again, it's challenging, but some of our students can handle this. If you don't give them the opportunity, they won't do it. Although, in the picture on the left, there is a dragon with a bag of fish. The dragon on the right does not have a bag of fish. Despite the fact that in the picture on the right, there's a blue dragon, the picture on the left is a red and yellow dragon. Okay, so we also want to talk about the questions we ask them. Okay, thanks, Lena. I'm glad you like the activity. Yes, well, that's why you're teachers. You need to figure out who's going to rise to the challenge and who isn't. But we need to give them the tools. If they're able to do it, we need to let them do it. All right. Questions we ask them. They need to be able to ask and answer questions. They're high-level questions and they're lower order questions. Most of the questions we ask our students are yes or no, which and who. We need to ask them higher order questions. And that's what the what if is. So, are you ready for some what-if questions? See if we can really challenge them. Okay. All right, so what if? These are higher. The one with the highest order thinking question is what if. And that's why I've chosen what if to show you this next activity. We're still talking about level 1. What if all the schools disappeared? What if you fell into a black hole? All right, now I'm going to ask you what if. What do you think this one is? I see some people are writing. What if the Earth was half its size? The Earth divided in two. Ah, okay. All right, these are great. These are very valid questions. This is one I put, but it doesn't matter. Use any of yours. What if the Earth were twice as big? What if it were half as, if it shrunk? Shrink, shrank, shrunk. What if you lived on another planet? Okay, you're thinking now, you see? I've gotten you critically thinking because you've been questioning me the whole time. That's the way we want to do it. Okay. Hi, Maribel. Okay. So, Maribel, we're on to creative questions here, still for level 1. I'll fill you in on the rest. What if a giant asteroid hadn't wiped out the dinosaurs? Well, we may not be right here right now talking, because we may not exist. Okay, Karim, that's a good one. What do you think this one is? Thank you, Anna. Same thing, just different phrase. And even later, yes, we're going to do this for later levels. What if everyone on Earth jumped at once? What if there was no gravity? What if you fell from the moon? Okay, Jose. What if you ate only one type of food? You could live on holidays. Yeah, it's a nice thought, Rosa. What if aliens landed on Earth? Right? So give them these pictures. Generate their imagination and see what comes out of their mouths. And then, when the examiner presents them with images like this, their minds will already be active. We want their minds to be active. I'm telling you, as an examiner, and what I've learned about being an examiner, when we know exactly when students come in with memorized sentences, what we want is to help our students' minds become active and the tools to express that active thinking. Okay? All right. So that's what we're doing here. Now, we're going to go to level 2. Is that all right? Okay, Anna, what part was boring? Hopefully not what I was saying to you, right? Okay. Level 2, ask and answer questions about yourselves and others. Express your likes and dislikes, discuss them with others, and tell people what you think about something you heard. Okay. So, ready for level 2? Maribel, you're just in time. Again, we want to break this up into academic language, into sequencing, compare and contrast. Oh yeah, Anna, eating the same food. It depends. I would eat ice cream for a month. Okay, so we're breaking up the scaffolding in level 2 into academic language, sequencing, compare and contrast, and all right, you'll figure it out. we are going to start with academic language. And again, what I was trying to explain before is the quality of language, the words we use, reflects our quality of thinking. The studies have proven that until we know a word, we don't think about the concept. So what we need to do is teach our students as many words as possible, like nevertheless, like despite the fact, expressions like that. If we teach it to them, they will begin to understand the concept. Great. So let's see what's going to come up. A Wizard of Earthsea. We're going to take a book. Now, I couldn't use the cover of the book for copyright reasons. It's an amazing book. It's an amazing trilogy. Now it has 5 books. So we're going to take this, okay? Now, this is, for level 2, this is very challenging, but we can help them understand this so that when they get to the exam and they read different paragraphs on the exam, they will be able to understand how to dissect, how to ignore some words, and to understand the whole idea at the same time. So this is something you read or heard. So we have this. Now we're going to scaffold this paragraph from the book. This is the first paragraph of the book. And how are we going to do that? All right. So what I've done is I've used little squares. They've taken that paragraph and divided up by different sentences. I have lines below and a space above. Why? Each group is going to take these. There are about 4 or 5, you can do 6 or 7 at the same time. They're going to rewrite the sentences on the line below in the past tense. Jose, I don't believe in translations if we can scaffold. I do believe in translations when there's no other solution. There's no problem with it. But first try to do the translation and see what happens. The scaffolding and see what happens, okay? Okay. So here we have, they're going to rewrite the sentence in the past tense. They may not understand everything they're reading, but they'll at least get started on understanding it. Then, and with the support of their partners, they're going to draw an image in this open space here, something to do with the sentence. So what they need to do is figure out something they understand here. If they only understand archipelago, which is the same in Spanish, so they draw an archipelago. Then they're going to begin to understand the rest of the sentence. They take the sentence, put it in the past tense, and draw something they understand from the sentence. Okay, the same here. So you have them do that, and you've broken up the whole paragraph into different parts. And then when they go back to the paragraph, when they go back to the reading, trying to get it back, they're going to, you see Earthsea itself as an archipelago. Now they say, oh, I do understand that. I can understand this whole sentence just by understanding a few words. They're going to be more motivated to read themselves outside of the class because you're teaching them how to break things like this up. Remember, scaffolding also is about breaking into chunks. And these are very easy to create. I can send you the templates for these. And again, it works really well. The students really like them. Okay? Good, Anna. Good, my friend. All right, so that's one. Let's try another one. Let's try the part where we ask and answer questions. All right, so we have the little prints. Again, I can't show the cover because of copyright laws. So just remember the little print starts, and I had to take the images out. The little print starts very simply. Very simply. The sentences are very simply. But then it gets more complicated, more sophisticated as the book goes on. So we are going to scaffold this paragraph over here. This the students are going to read. This they're going to have no problem in. Now they're thinking, it's getting a little more complicated. All right, stop. I need a break. Let me have my mobile phone. I need to send messages. All right? We're going to help them understand this paragraph. How are we going to do that? So again, so they're more motivated to practice these things outside of class. We're going to give them a cipher wheel, and we're going to cipher some sentences of that paragraph. Now this is much easier than it looks. There's a link. One of my students actually created a platform where I can now, and you can too, cipher sentences right online and use this wheel so the students uncipher it. So for instance, find the U on the outside of the wheel. On the outside of the wheel, the U is here. And on the inside of the wheel, it's the letter T. Right? So we have a T. Let's find the N on the outside of the wheel, and the inside of the wheel, it's the letter H. Someone gets this before me, please write it in the chat. We're going to look for the Y on the outside of the wheel. That's really great. The Y, and the inside of the wheel is the letter E. So we have the. We have the word the, right? Okay. And you go on like that. And what you're going to figure out is they have, I think I did this in the next slide. They will have deciphered this big paragraph. Now they can do this as a group. I'm glad you like it. The kids love it. So this is what they've deciphered. All right, so that's, again, it's a really dynamic scaffold. This helps them feel excited about reading. What we want them to do is feel confident, feel successful, so that when they get to the exam, they're thinking, oh, I can do this. It's not the same paragraph that I did in class with my teacher, but reading is fun. I'm going to figure this out. So, are we ready for level 3? We're doing really well. We have about 5 minutes, I think. We can do level 3. We can do it. Let's see if we have a few more ideas we can come up with to help the higher levels. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to scaffold academic language, sequencing, compare and contrast, and the what if. So we're going to start. This is level 3. And just to give you a little background, the World Bank put out a report in 2016 that by the year 2020, 15 million jobs are going to be taken over by machines. So this professor, took it very seriously and did a study. And in her study, she found, I'm giving you a very brief summary of her findings, that machines actually do better than humans, not only in direct questions, but indirect questions. So what we need to do is help our students think critically, even if it's just for speaking exams. Help them think creatively, think on their feet, okay? So it's a very important message we need to take with us. So even if they're just practicing English, we also want them to practice thinking. I know, and actually, Corinne, the study is that it's not in our nature to think. It's not in our nature to think. We like to use memory. So anytime we are asking our students to think, we're asking them to go against nature. For us too, but we're educators, so we like to think. All right. So part of these scaffolds is helping them, remember, the push out of their zone? All right, this is where in the level 1, I couldn't show you very well, but let's see, we're going to show it in level 3. You have a map with a lot of information. And in the exam, the student is expected to talk about the economic migration in the 1990s. Well, that's a big topic. It's a big topic. But what we want to do is help our students learn to break it down. In the exam, they're not going to be able to do this activity, but helping them categorize information is the object. So we're taking this map and we're dividing it up into 3. And we're going to give them questions, and they're just going to look at 1/3 of the map at a time and try to answer these questions. After 5 minutes, let them look at the other third and answer the question. And then the last third and answer the question. And what we're asking them to do is look at these arrows and try to remember what country is over here on the east, what countries are over here on the west. Right here it's a map. You can think of any image. And they need to try to remember or try to guess what's on the other part of the image that they can't see. So here we've broken it up for them. We're helping them just focus on one part. So when they get to the exam and they see the whole image, and it's very complicated, they don't panic. They think, I can do this. I'm just going to focus on one part of it at a time and talk to the examiner like an intelligent person that I am. Okay? So this is dividing into threes. Here we have at level 3, using and understanding formal, academic, and colloquial language. This is an article about the Brechet, the whole problem with Brechet, which some of you may appreciate, some of Neil probably more than all of us. Okay, yeah, getting to reflect. So here we have a lot of academic language, all right? But this is something in level 3 they're going to have, and it's probably much more difficult than this. So how can we help them focus? Yeah. How can we help them read this and understand this? Well, we're going to give them some strategies. And one strategy we can give them is, we're going back to the irony. Remember the images in level 1 where I said there were 3 correct images and there was only 1? Well, in this we can also do it, but with sentences. Joe Johnson savages Theresa May's Brechet strategy and quits over worst crisis since Suez. Now, what does that mean? Theresa May's domestic woes deepened last night after Joe Johnson resigned as the transport minister, declaring her approach to Brechet a failure on a scale not seen since Suez. Right. I understand that because I've grown up speaking English. It's pretty challenging for someone who's learning English. So what we can do is take it and give them 2 choices. What does it mean? Does it mean that in an uncompromising statement, he called the proposal withdrawal agreement? This is something, I have to say that this is kind of complicated to see in a webinar. You're going to have to ask Neil for it so you can sit and really look at it. It'll make a lot more sense when you can see these slides together. Does this slide mean that Joe Johnson is withdrawing his marriage proposal to Theresa May because she's negotiating a prenuptial agreement that's worse than the one he proposed? Because we're using the word withdrawal, proposed, negotiating, okay? Or does it mean that Theresa May's proposal on how to break from the European Union is prohibitive? Thank you, Isabel. You got it. Karina got it. Okay? No, my accent is not British. I'm American. So first you have to read the sentence, then you have to read number 1 and number 2. That's supposed to be 2 there. Sorry. A meditation sort of task? I'm not sure. But you'd have to really think about it. In the meantime, you're seeing how withdraw has 2 different meanings depending on the context. Proposed has different meaning depending on the context. You're thinking, what does a prenuptial agreement have to do with the European Union? Mediation, sorry. I even have my glasses on and I'm not even reading it correctly. All right. Well, you tell me. You can answer that. Let me give you one more example. No, that was the only example I have. Sorry. I have other examples that I can send you. But the idea here is take the language and play with it so that your students also see the humor in what they're reading. And then when they see it in the exam, their anxiety will be less. They say, I can make this funny. Right? There's a way to see this and make it, and I can still understand it. All right, and the last thing, let's see if I have time to do this. The last thing we're doing is hieroglyphics. Let's do this really quickly. I need your help for this, okay? You ready? We can use hieroglyphics. What does this mean? What term is this? Okay, in other words, food pyramid. Okay, the food pyramid. There we go. Okay, ready for the second one? Okay, what term is this? I know, Anna, but just try it. Just try it. There we go. Eye drops. Emmanuel. Okay. Victoria, they are tears, but we have eye, and then they are tears, but they're also drops. So it's eye drops. Okay? I know this because I did it. Otherwise, I'd be horrible at it. All right, what is this? Who is this, and what is this? Discovery of America. It could be. But what is this? Let's just think generally, who is this guy? Don't think of a name. All right, Corinne, you got the second. Oh, Lola. Censorship. Interesting. Okay. Well, what was Julius Caesar? We don't often think of Julius Caesar. It starts with a D. Yeah, Rocío got it. Nice job. Nice job. All the others, I love them. I love them. You're really thinking. Okay, there's a couple more. This could be the last one. Let's see. Who can get this one? Hello. Rosa, you are good. Lola, nice job. Okay, Peter. Okay, Laura, you got it. And anarchy. See, your minds are really moving now. I feel like I've done my part. I've made your minds really work. And people, on that note, that's all that we have time for right now. So I say have fun, and the more you have fun in your classes, the more your students will relax, and on the exams, they will be more active, get their minds working. Thank you all so much for connecting. Hope to see you again soon.